Chair, we're now live on YouTube. Ready when you are.
Right, Maisie, thank you very much. We'll then continue. Welcome everybody to tonight's Northampton Borough Council Planning Committee meeting. I am Councillor Brian Oldham, the Chairman of the Northampton Borough Council Planning Committee. Just before I start the meeting proper, there's just a notice I want to make everyone aware of. It's regarding the recording of the virtual planning committee meetings. The public have a right to record this meeting by filming or other means whilst it is open to the public. If members pass a resolution to exclude the public from part of the meeting, then the right to record will not apply to that part of the meeting. For that reason, if a resolution is passed to exclude the public, then for the part of the meeting to which the public do not have access, the live streaming of this meeting will be switched off and resumed if the meeting again becomes open to the public. Thank you. Maisie, before I start there, could you give us the apologies, but when we've done with that, also give a list of who's taking part in this meeting, please, with regards to members and the officers, please.
We have received apologies from Councillors Chowdhury and Golby, and this evening we have present councillors, Councillor McCutcheon, Councillor Lane, King, Botwood, Birch, Mary Markham, Brian Markham, Catherine Russell, and Councillor Carley.
Making a total of that. Sorry, go on, carry on.
We have 10 councillors,
right,
and for officers, we have Hannah Weston, Rita Bovey, Adam Smith, Peter Bagley, and Teresa Boyd, and myself and Tracy.
Thank you very much. Thanks for that. So with the apologies that I've done as well, item 2 committee is the minutes of the 12th of May, which was the meeting for the MPH applications. Have you all had time to read them and are happy that they are correct, please?
Agreed.
Agreed. Show of hands, please, if we can. You all happy with them? Alan, you happy with them? Alan? Show of hands, I can't see your hand.
MPH board member, Chair.
Of course you was. Of course you was. Yeah, I'm just testing you. Just testing you. Right, everybody else is in favour with that, with those minutes, okay? Thank you. The minutes for the 19th will be ready for when we have the next meeting on July the 7th, I believe. Right, deputations and public addresses. Now, we have 7 speakers, of which Mr. Bolton of MPH is down to speak on items 12A and 12B. So actually we've got 6 speakers. But while I'm talking about the speakers, I've made some adjustments as to the running of the agenda. Councillor Larratt approached me and asked if I'd use my discretionary powers to allow item 10D, which is Wootton Park School, to be heard jumped up because he's got an important meeting to go to by 6 o'clock. I have agreed to that with the officers as well. So, but I've adjusted the running of the agenda in this way. Item 10D will be heard first. Item 10D, Wootton Park School, that is on page 49. Then, because there's 3 speakers on item 10B, page 35, which is Park Avenue North, that will be heard secondly. And then thirdly, it will be 10A, because we have a speaker on that, on page 27. And by jumping them up, I shall be putting items 9A and 9B behind items 10. So we shall go to item 7, item 8, item 9, and item 7, item 8, jump to item 10, do all the item 10 applications, then go to items 9A and 9B, and then 12A and 12B. So that's how we shall be doing it. Okay, sorry if it's a bit confusing, but that's so that the speakers are not hanging about, they can get in, speak, and we can then debate them while the speakers are there. Okay. Right, now declarations of interest and predetermination. Are there any, please? Councillor Botwood, yeah.
Thank you, Chair. I have a personal and disclosable interest in items 12A and 12B as a board member of Northampton Partnership Homes, and I will leave the meetings for these items.
Thank you. Councillor King. Anna, welcome aboard to the first planning committee meeting, Anna. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So I have predetermination in relation to item 9A, which is Jay's Jetty, and item 9B, the Guildhall, as Cabinet Member for Community Engagement and Safety. So I'll leave the meeting when these are being discussed. I've also got a predetermination in relation to item 10B tonight as well, which is 47 Park Avenue North. I'll be speaking as the ward representative, so I'll leave after I've spoken on that item.
Thank you very much. Councillor Malcolm. Mary, yes.
Thank you, Chair. I have a personal and disclosable interest in item 12A and 12B as a board member of Northampton Partnership Homes, and I will leave the meeting for these items.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? No?
No one's indicating.
Thank you very much, Maisie. Right, we come then to item 5, matter of urgencies, by reason of special circumstances, the chairs of the opinion should be considered. Well, I don't have any. So we're now going to item 6, which is a list of current appeals and inquiries on page 9. And Rita, I believe this is your report. Would you like to present it and bring it up to date with us, please?
Thank you, Chair. As you can see on page 9 of the agenda, although we have 11 appeals pending, but we have not received any decision from the planning inspector yet. But I believe that they are coming through. So most likely that in the next meeting, we will have some further updates for you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Has anybody got any questions to ask of item 6? No?
No one's indicating, Chair.
Thank you very much, Maisie. Thank you, Rita. So we then go on to item 7, other reports. There are none. And we go on to item 8, Northamptonshire County Council applications, which there are none. And as I've just said previously, we'll now put items 9A and B behind items 10, which we'll debate and vote on all the items in item 10, as I previously said. And with that, I will say we'll start with item 10D, which is the relocation of a multi-use games area, Hamogga, 5 metres to the south of its approved position, retrospective, at Wootton Park School, Wootton Hall Park. Adam, this is your report. Would you like to present it, please?
Thank you, Chair. The application seeks planning permission for amendments to the siting of a mugger at Wootton Park School. The approved layout of the school is shown on this slide, and the construction of the site is well advanced. You can see the main school building on the Mearway frontage and 2 separate muggers, a playing pitch and a large car park on the northern part of Wootton Hall Park. Also on this slide, you can just see the temporary school building and also the existing cricket pitch, the artificial pitch down here. The mugger, the subject to the application, is located here, and it was approved next to the footpath running around the car park and ending on the corner of the paddock here. As can be seen on the next slides, it has been constructed 5 metres to the south due to the discovery of an existing soakaway. This is the location plan, and as the application relates only to this mugger, the red edge for the site is limited in area, and the remaining land in the ownership of the school is outlined in blue. The southern half of Wootton Hall Park down here is outside the ownership of the school. The extent of the reciting of the mugger can also be seen on this slide, and you can see the soakaway is in the area just here next to the footpath, and it's been pushed 5 metres this way, so you can see it just extending out beyond that corner there. Here we have a site plan, and you can see the school site, which ends where this red line here, includes a small part of the cricket outfield. Which the main part of the cricket pitch is located in the southern part of Wootton Hall Park. And the approved application for the school, for the original application, included a condition to stop this part of the school site being enclosed to protect the integrity of the cricket pitch. The applicant has provided this plan to show the mugger in its resited position, as they just slightly moved down here, and it shows the existing cricket outfield for the artificial pitch that's there. And it also shows an enlarged outfield dotted in black, which extends here, so separated from the mugger. If the old 5 grass cricket pitches were to be reinstated in the future. Sports England are the statutory consultee relating to sports facilities, and they raised no objection to this application. I've got a photograph to finish, and you can see the mugger as constructed, and the post and rail fence just running along here marks the line of where the approved mugger ended, and you can see that the small part here is where it extends further to the south. So to finish, Chair, there are no updates, and the officer recommendation is to approve subject to conditions. Thank you.
Right, thank you, Adam. Thank you very much. Right, we have one speaker on this application. This is Councillor Larratt. Councillor Larratt, are you there?
Yes, I'm here, Chair.
All right. Good evening, Phil. If you just identify yourself and if what capacity you speak, please, for the record.
Yeah, Councillor Phil Larratt, East Hunsbury Ward. I'm speaking as the Ward Councillor with regard to this application. I've had, I've been consistent, Mr. Chairman.
Sorry. Carry on. I'm going to say you've got 3 minutes when you start, yeah.
Okay. I've been consistent, Mr. Chairman, with regard to the development of this site in opposing a great deal of what has actually gone on. I think the school and the school buildings are absolutely fine, but the intrusion into what was originally open space and consisted of a really top-class cricket pitch and a top-class football pitch that the Cobblers were even considering using as a training pitch has been totally wrong. So I'm being consistent in my objections. I object to this proposal because it does represent a further incursion into the cricket pitch, a cricket pitch that was used significantly by the community, not just the local community, but the community across the town. The Asian community used to use it on a regular basis, but now the facility is no longer available and you can't even book it. If you try and book it, you get taken around the houses and you can spend an hour on the phone trying to actually book it. So I have had comments from residents of Wootton Hall Park. There are a significant number of residents of Wootton Hall Park objecting to this who've contacted me. I think some of them may have written in, but it does intrude onto the cricket pitch, and we are short. There is a shortage of cricket pitches across the town. So I would have thought that if this was to be approved at some stage, planning should have made some effort to ensure that if there was an intrusion into the existing pitch, then it should be compensated elsewhere on the site. And there is land to the south where they could actually be required to readjust the site of the cricket pitch in order to maintain that the community facility that it is continues. As you know, Chairman, I've objected on the basis that this ground at Wootton Hall Park features in a safe policy of the local plan and is awarded the same status as Abington Park and Delphi Park and the Rose Park and many others. And I just wonder if we continue to allow this space to be developed in the way that it is being developed to the detriment of the community, then where are we going in the future? So I do object, Mr. Chairman, and I do think that there should be a requirement for the cricket ground to be reconstructed elsewhere so that the facility is still there and remains for the community. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Phil. Thank you very much. If you just remain with us just while the committee may have some questions to ask of the points that you've mentioned. Committee, does anyone got any questions to ask of Councillor Birch? Jane, I see your hand up. Yes. Jane.
Right. Thank you, Chair. Could I ask Councillor Larratt, please, with the positioning, the new positioning of this mugger, will it mean that the outfield for the cricket ground is reduced?
It's a further incursion into the area of the cricket pitch. That's the issue as I see it. And yeah, I object to that incursion unless the cricket pitch is reconstructed to its original size by moving it further to the south.
Right, Councillor Birch, yeah, with that. Councillor Markham, Brian, you have your hand up, yeah, please.
I do, Chair. If I could ask Councillor Councillor Larratt, you indicated at the beginning of your presentation, you indicated that actually the cricket pitch is not in use because of difficulties booking it. I just thinking back to the original planning application for the whole site of the school. I thought there were conditions that the cricket pitch should remain available for community use. I agree with Phil that it's very important cricket pitch. I played very badly on there a few years ago, but say I more concerning not just losing a corner of it, but actually if it's not available for the community to use is another issue. May not be a planning issue, perhaps. Thank you.
Phil, did you want to come back on that?
I can't really say much more, Chairman. You know, as I say, it's a valuable community asset that is no longer available, and I think that's to the detriment of not just my ward but the town as a whole, as it was the facility that was used by people from across the borough.
Okay, thank you. Then anyone else got any questions to ask of Councillor Larratt? Anybody indicating, Maisie? No?
No one's indicating, Chair.
Right. Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Phil. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm going to get off to my next meeting, so thank you very much.
No problem. You're welcome. Adam, before I open the questions to you from the committee, is there anything you want to come back on what you've heard from Councillor Larratt's statement?
Thank you, Chair. I've covered most of it in my presentation. Sports England have standards on cricket pitches, and essentially they have assessed the proposals and they're content that the application doesn't prejudice the cricket outfield or its expansion for 5 wickets. In terms of community use, and this did come up under the previous application, the council can't require the school necessarily to make the pitch be used by the community. However, there were conditions on the previous planning permission which prevented the enclosure of the land, so it didn't prejudice the cricket pitch. And there was also conditions imposed on the previous planning permission which have effectively been rolled forward on this permission, and it's condition 2 for a community use agreement. Now that would only relate to the school's facilities, but nevertheless the planning department have been looking to get community use out of this, and when they stick in a community use agreement, that will be looked at by Sports England. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, the one point I'd want to ask Adam, is there anything, I mean, in probably national planning policy framework that says that this space would be protected from development? I mean, the fact of the matter is we still are in the Guinness seats to any planning application. If it was to come forward, we can't stop any developer wanting to build. They can build in the grounds of Buckingham Palace if they want, but I mean, the thing is, they've got to put a planning application in. But is there something in national planning policy framework that can perhaps show that we can protect this green space from any further intrusion?
Yes, both the MPPF in paragraph 97 and the Joint Core Strategy Policy RC2, they both seek to protect open space and sports facilities. So if there were future applications, they'd be assessed against that and potentially protected under those policies, Chair. Thank you.
And is that Joint Core Strategy, is that BN5 that covers that?
BN5 would also cover it. BN5 relates to the sort of the landscape side of it, and And previously, the cricket pitch was determined to be quite a key landscape feature for Wootton Hall Park, and that's why previously we looked to protect it. And again, as part of this application, the applicant has looked to demonstrate that the outfield wouldn't be prejudiced by the proposal.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, committee. Anyone else got any questions to ask of Adam, please? Councillor Martin.
Councillor Brian
yeah?
Markham.
Yeah, thank you, Maisie. Yeah, okay, thanks.
Thank you, Chair. If I could ask Adam again on the condition from the previous application carried forward to this one. My understanding from what you said, Adam, was that it was a condition that there be an agreement as to how community access to all the facilities, but particularly the cricket pitch, would be managed, and that this condition has not yet been sorted, not been agreed with so far on the previous application. And if that's the case, I'm worried that it will be ever implemented unless unless we make it perhaps an even stronger condition of this minor application, somehow saying, well, okay, if you got to move the Mooga, you do that, but you only do that when you come to agree with Sport England, the council and the community on the use of the cricket facilities that are there.
Adam?
Councillor Markham, if I could clarify a little bit and put your mind at rest. The condition can only relate to the facilities that are in the school's land and in the school's control. So the condition would relate to potentially there's the football pitches that are in the school's land. There's technically four Mugger courts, of which this is one of them, and then there's also the sports hall as well, potentially as a community facility that would be under the community use agreement. The cricket pitch is on third-party land. It's not in their ownership, so we can't require them necessarily to facilitate access to it because it's beyond their control because they don't own it. In terms of not provided details for it, it's a preoccupation condition. They haven't occupied the school yet, so they don't have to provide details yet, but they have started discussions. I can advise you as the case officer that's been dealing with it. So they are in the early stages of producing it, and I understand it's going to be submitted imminently. So they're more than mindful of their requirements before they occupy. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Birch. Jane?
Thank you, Chair. Adam, can you just confirm that the Mugger is available or not for community use? It does now encroach outside the area, the school's boundary. Is that therefore available for the community use as well?
The intention is it would be available for school use. It's still within the school's boundary. It's still within their land. It's just going into the part of their land, which under the previous application, we could condition that they couldn't enclose by fencing. So it's still their land and they still intend to use that land for small pitches, for smaller sports games and activities. So it's still within their land and still within their control. It's just into the part that was previously more open, close to where the cricket outfield was.
So she was asking about the Mugger though, weren't you, Jane? If the Mugger is in community use. Yeah,
the Mugger, the intention is for the community use agreement to cover the Muggers. We haven't yet agreed that, but it's a preoccupation condition and they haven't occupied the school yet. But the intention is that the Muggers would fall under the community use agreement and that they would be available for the community. I mean, yeah.
Thank you. But did you want a supplementary, Jane?
Could you make that a condition that the Mugger is available for community use as it's on this open area of land?
We could add it as an informative for the avoidance of doubt. The Mugger should be included in the community use agreement. It wouldn't be necessary to add it to the condition, but for clarity for the applicant, we could put an informative on so that they're aware.
Okay. Maisie, is there anyone else showing any indication that they want to ask any questions about them?
No one is indicating, Chair.
So we go on to comments, and if I could just kick off. I mean, Councillor Larratt is quite right. He's been consistent with this, and I do share some of his concerns. And the thing is that I have asked the officers about certain things. MP and the National Planning Policy Framework 97 covers this such a thing. The BN5 of the Joint Core Strategy is also relevant to these landscapes. I would not want to see any more encroachment, or certainly no buildings on this. We have got certain conditions in to stop this. The one big condition, if anybody wanted to try and develop it, they'd have to come through the planning committee anyway. With regards to the encroachment of the cricket pitch, there's 5 metres encroachment, but 6.5, when I've looked at it with Sport England, have considered that the development would reduce the sporting capability of the site. It is not considered that the development would reduce the sporting capability of the site. I share Councillor Larratt's concerns. I do share them. But we have things in place, I hope, that would stop anybody from really pushing this too far. We have such as a thing, as I say, the BN5 of the Joint Core Strategy, which Adam's referred to, is also relevant to such landscapes. There is the NPPF of paragraph 97 to resist the unjustified loss of open space. That's there, which a planning committee or planning officers would use against any proposed developer. So, though I share Councillor Larratt's concerns, assumptive concerns, there are sufficient, as far as I'm concerned, planning restrictions that would stop a developer abusing this open space any further. It's a pity that the this soakaway was not found originally, because this is like it's like a persistent spot that we've got to keep scratching, but we are where we are. But in the main, on a planning reason, notwithstanding the fact that what Councillor Larratt is, I'm very sympathetic to that, for planning reasons, I think we are covered with this, and I'm minded to support it, somewhat reluctantly, on planning grounds for that reason. Sorry, I've took a bit of time. Anybody else got any comments on the matter? Maisie? Nobody on my screen. Anybody else?
No one's indicating, Chair.
Right. So, taking everything what's been heard and said, the officer's recommendation is for approval. Do I have a proposer that we accept the officer's recommendation, please? Councillor Lane, thank you. Jamie, seconder. Councillor Birch. Jane, thank you very much. All those in favour?
We have 10 hands in the air, Chair. That's unanimous.
That's unanimous. So thank you, committee. Thank you very much. Right, as I said, committee, we're now going to go to item 10B, which, Rita, I believe, is your report. And what it is, committee, it's item 10B on page 35, which is for Park Avenue North. It's a development, an extension, I believe. It's a single-storey side extension and single-storey rear extension and detached garage. Rita, as I said, this is your report. Would you like to present it, please? And then after Rita's presented it, Anna, you will be invited to speak, and then you will have to leave the meeting, as you said. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Rita. Yeah. Thank you,
Chair. Maisie, will Mrs. Butler be in? Is she already in?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, sorry then.
She's at the bottom.
Right. Yeah, but that's it's not shown. Okay. Right, thank you, Chair. The application, yeah, can you see? Yeah?
Yeah, yeah.
Pop up, good.
Well,
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, you can see the application is for single-storey extension to the side and rear, and also a detached garage. Let's see. Sorry, just bear with me. I just get the. Yes, this is the application site number 47. As you can see, this is an end of terrace property in here. This is Park Avenue North, and this is Broadway. This is a property within quite a substantial plot, and previously part of the garage has been developed and a new dwelling has been erected about 8 or 9 years ago in this position. Now it is called number 81A Broadway. So moving on, just an area photograph to show you the position, Park Avenue and Broadway there. Just the photograph of the dwelling in question. As you can see there, it has got a 2-story flat roof extension to the back and also an outbuilding in this position. Currently, there's a boundary wall and shrubbery to the top in this position, and then a double gate. So this is another view of that. This is the gate from Broadway to the garden, where currently they were used for parking. This is a property I mentioned. This new dwelling was developed at number 81A Broadway. So just give you the rear elevation view to the back. This is the 2-story flat roof extension. It has got this almost like a conservatory looking building with a glazed roof to sloping in there. And this is the detached outbuilding. There's a little bit of history. In paragraph 8.2 of your report stated that there was a previous planning application that was granted permission for an extension. I just want to show you, this is the previous application that was approved for a 1-story extension to the back of the property. From this plan, you could see the double gate and the new dwelling that was in that position. So this was approved, as you can see, with the flat roof extension there, with the lantern. You can also see the elevation there, linking up with the outbuilding. But this permission was never implemented, and the permission has since lapsed. So currently, this application submitted, as you can see, this is the block plan. There are 3 elements to this application. There is this detached garage, as you can see, with a pitch roof located in this position. A 1-story flat roof extension in here, and also a side extension in this position. I have to apologize. There's an amendment to the report. Member has already been sent the addendum. In paragraph 8.9 of a report, it mentioned that the site extension supposed to be permitted development, but in fact, that is not correct. As a site extension will be back onto Broadway, which is a public highway, paragraph 8.9 of the report is incorrect. To say that it is permitted development. In fact, permission is required for this part of the proposal. However, as there is an existing structure in this location, and also the flat roof extension up to 3.2 meters high, together with the existing boundary treatment, is considered that will not impact on street scene. And also due to the separation distance with neighbor, it's considered that the extension will not adversely impact on residential amenity. So that is the addendum. Going back to the extension, first of all, so this is the current elevation with the pitch roof, which I'll show you in the photograph. So that will be removed, and a single-story rear extension will be positioned here. The extension will project 2.1 meters from the rear wall and 3 meters to the flat roof, including the lantern, that will be 3.2 meters. So this part of the extension will be come under permitted development. So what it means is, even if the permission is refused, they can still build that without permission. However, the other part of the extension, the side extension, which I corrected, does require planning permission. However, again, as you can see, because there was an existing outbuilding there with a pitch roof, this new build will be much lower. As you can see, this is the elevation you can see from there. So the third element of the application will be a pitch roof garage in this position. It will extend 6.3 meters along the north boundary and 7.4 meters along the west boundary. It will be up to the east 2.1 meters, to the ridge height will be 3.8. As you can see in this position, the gable end will abut the existing boundary wall. There's an existing boundary wall there, 1.5 meters high with trellises on top. So obviously there will be, as in some sort of visual impact from next, when you see it from next door, because the structure will be higher than the existing boundary treatment. If I just show you some of the photographs first. This is within the application site. As you can see, this van here, this position where the pitch roof garage located. So will be abut this boundary wall, as I mentioned, 1.5 with trellis on top. This is a view taken from the application site upstairs. As you can see, this is the sloping roof with the glaze conservatory, which will be removed with the two flat roof extension in this position. You can see the adjoining neighbor has a similar structure in that position, and that is the back garden. This is a view taken from the neighbor at number 49. This is within the garden. So this is number 81A Broadway. So the double garage, that is the van that we saw earlier. So double garage will be in this position. So you can see part of the gable roof over there. Again, this is further along from the next door neighbor's garden. You can see that van is there. So the garage will be in here. This is a picture taken from number 81A Broadway. So this is the boundary wall between this and the application site. So this is an angle. You can see the other boundary wall with the trellis on top. I'll just go back to the plans. Okay. So obviously with this element of the rear extension, because it's permitted development, so we cannot therefore really assess the impact on that one because it is permitted. In terms of the rear extension, the side extension, I mentioned earlier that it is 3.2 meters high, although it's adjoining a public highway, because there is existing outbuilding there and the boundary treatment. So the extension will not impact on street scene nor affecting neighbor amenity because it's some distance from any neighbors. In terms of the garage, although it's pitch roof, there are other flat roof garages along the alleyway in there. It is pitch roof, but officers do not consider that a pitch roof garage in this position will be out of keeping with the character of the street scene. And also it is a relatively low pitch, and then it's set back from the frontage from Broadway. So with the gates closed, you probably don't see the garage that much. With glimpse view if the gates is open. So in terms of the impact on 81A Broadway, obviously this garage will be adjoining this boundary, but it is sloping away from the boundary and there's an existing brand new wall there. Obviously do not consider that the impact will be so significant that will have any problem on this property, and we have not received an objection again from this neighbouring property. As for the neighbour at number 49, again, I mentioned that before, you can't see part of the garage, the gable from their garden. The report make it quite clear that officers do feel that yes, there's some impact onto the garden of that property that is to the north. But however, in terms of both loss of light and overbearing, feel that the degree is not so significant that warrant a refusal of the application. One point that was raised by the neighbours before, they requested why couldn't a light assessment exercise being carried out. Officers felt that because this part of the extension is permitted development, so it will not be reasonable to ask for a light assessment for that score. And in terms of the garage, it is not unusual for structure or building like that to abut boundary, because there's still quite substantial length of garden, notwithstanding there was some impact of overshadowing. With officers do not feel that a light impact assessment is reasonably requested in this instance. So all in all, Chair, the recommendation is for approval. We feel that the all three elements will be in keeping with the locality, and in terms of degree impact, we do not feel that it is so severe that it warrants a refusal. So the recommendation is for approval. Thank you, Chair.
Well, thank you, Rita, for that very in-depth report that you've just given, verbal report. We have 3 speakers on this committee, and I now call upon Councillor King to speak first. Just for the record, Councillor King, if you just identify yourself and in what capacity you speak, please.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Anna King, Cabinet Member for Community Engagement and Safety, and also Ward Councillor for Fixville. So I'm speaking.
3 minutes, Anna. 3 minutes, yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Speaking tonight from concerns, the neighbours that have contacted me on this, predominantly the ones at 47, are mostly affected. If you could just take your attention to 8.10. There's a few items on there I just want to pull out to you. So 8.10, if you're on the 9th line, it says, whilst it's acknowledged the garage would be clearly visible above the boundary treatment. So for instance, that's already first-hand saying that it's going to be clearly visible and will have an impact on next door. It also states on balance, it's considered due to the separation distances, the garage would not cause a significant adverse impact to neighbours in terms of overbearing, overlooking or loss of privacy. But as you can pick up from those photos that we've just seen ourselves, that bottom corner is quite shadowed already from the vehicles that are parked there. To have even a higher amount of meters of light taken away from them, I think it is going to cause them a detrimental impact, loss of light to them, and I do think it is going to have significant impact to their visibility. So they are my main concerns, and I feel that they should be heard here before yourself, so that you could make your own decisions on them. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Anna. If you just remain with us, just in case the committee's got any questions to ask of you before you leave the meeting, please. Committee, have you got any questions to ask of Councillor King?
No one's indicating, Chair.
Thank you very much, Maisie. Anna, I must ask you to excuse us for the rest of this debate. Thank you. And Maisie, I assume that Councillor King is removed, not nastily, but she's removed from the meeting.
She has, Chair. She's in the waiting room. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now I call upon Liz Butler, please. Liz Butler, are you with us?
Hello, sorry, can you hear me?
I can indeed. Now, Liz, if you just identified yourself and in what capacity you speak, please.
Yes, we are Liz and Jeremy Butler, and we live number 49 Park Avenue North.
Okay, you have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. We failed to understand how the planning officer, following her limited site visit, could make the statement that the application wouldn't lead to any unacceptable impacts on local area and adjacent residential amenity. We feel that this subjective judgment is completely unjustifiable and does not take into account every one of the objections raised by neighbours and local residents who give clear and justifiable reasons why this development would have a detrimental impact on the local area and residential amenity. The design of the proposed garage is out of character with the local environment, as there are no pitched roof garages along our stretch of the alleyway. A pitched roof garage would have an extremely detrimental impact on our garden, completely blocking direct light to it for a significant proportion of the year. It would also have a massive impact on available light to the very small garden of 81A Broadway. The proposed large structure with the pitched roof will be an imposing presence that will dominate the feel of our garden. Understand from Nikki Scapes that there is no longer apparently any intention to demolish our garden wall and build a new shared boundary wall that will be in the rear of the garage, but by placing it adjacent to the garden wall, this still means that the impact of a large pitched roof building would be enormous. Any building close to the garden wall will not allow for future maintenance, and there is the risk of damage if foundations are dug close by. We've been informed by the agent that a flat roof garage is intended for the site of the pitched roof if the pitched roof garage doesn't get permission. We feel this could also be sited more suitably in keeping with garages in this area, i.e. close to the highway and away from neighbours' garden walls. We feel an amicable solution is to build a garage against the vast side wall of 81A Broadway in precisely the position of the garage removed 10 years ago, which would be in keeping with every other property in the area. There would not be a negative effect on light or imposing presence on either of the affected neighbouring properties. We are concerned that this site is being overdeveloped. 81A was built at the rear of the garden, which already has a huge impact on our rear garden. Overdevelopment of available garden space impacts on the future of green space in urban areas and is detrimental to the environment. We submitted pictures with the proposed structure superimposed to demonstrate impact, but these have been withheld for some reason. We asked for a BRE assessment to take place in order to determine whether our right to light will be detrimentally affected by the proposed extension. This was refused. We failed to understand why. Our health and well-being have been detrimentally affected by all of this. There are reasonable alternatives that could be taken to allow our neighbours to achieve their aims, but also respect the quality of life for their neighbours and their community.
That's only 2.5 minutes.
That was 2.5 minutes. That was 2.5 minutes.
Maisie, did you time it?
I was
I
timing
said
it.
30 seconds remaining.
Okay,
Sorry, I didn't.
30 seconds.
A very
just saying 30 seconds remaining.
Chair,
Chair,
could I suggest that Mrs. Butler is allowed to just repeat the last 30 seconds of her speech, just in case members didn't hear it because of the warnings being broadcast?
No problem with that.
Thank you. I said our health and well-being have been detrimentally affected by all of this. Again, there are reasonable alternatives that could be taken that allow our neighbours to achieve their aims, but also respect the quality of life for their neighbours and the local amenity. A very similar previous planning application for a pitched roof garage and office above in the same position as the current application was withdrawn at the last minute a few years ago. No one in the planning department appears to know why it was withdrawn, which we find surprising because at the time the case officer told us it was withdrawn because planning consent would not be given because of the high impact on the residents of 81A. I'm not sure why this wasn't recorded, but we feel the new proposal would have the same impact and therefore should be rejected on the same basis. We hope the committee have had the opportunity to read all the objections that were sent in from us and other local residents, as they frequently have been unavailable on the site and were unavailable again today.
Time check.
Right, thank you, Mrs. Butler. If you just remain with us in case the committee's got any questions to ask of you, please. I can see one from my screen, Councillor Birch. Jane, yeah. Jane.
Thank you, Chair. Mrs. Butler, did your neighbours come and talk to you about this development at all when it was in its planning stage?
No,
So
they didn't.
No consultation?
No, the first we heard of it was a letter asking us if we, because it was the party wall agreement we didn't even know that any planning permission had gone in. The first we heard was a request for party wall agreement to get whoever you get a party wall surveyor involved. We knew nothing about it at that point.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else got any questions to ask of Mrs. Butler? Maisie, can you see anybody?
No one is indicating, Chair.
Okay. Thank you, Mrs. Butler. Thank you very much for your passionate statement on that. I now call upon Mr. Dave Collins, please. Mr. Collins, are you with us?
I am.
Right, Mr. Collins, good evening. If you just identify yourself and in what capacity you speak for the record, please.
My name is Dave Collins. I'm the planning agent on this application.
Okay, you have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, for giving me the opportunity to address the committee. Firstly, I'm pleased that the recommendation is for approval and trust that the members will follow that recommendation. Rita Bovies clearly explained the proposal. The extension nearest to the house is permitted development. The proposal also includes the side addition to Broadway itself. There is an existing outbuilding that fronts onto Broadway or backs onto Broadway. That building has a almost 4 meters high wall. It's 4 meters long. The proposal is to remove that and a lower wall about 3.2 meters in height and 6 meters in length. Again, tidying up that boundary to Broadway. I think that in the end that this will be an improvement to the street scene in Broadway. With regard to the garage, the proposal is that the garage is sited, I think the position of the garage is 17 metres from the rear wall of the existing house. It's quite a distance away from the house, therefore. The height of the garage to the ridge is 3.7 metres. While I could go into further details, I think that the separation distance between the living accommodation of the house and the height of the building justifies the proposal as not having a material effect on the neighbouring occupiers. Hopefully the committee will follow that recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Collins. If you just remain with us in case the committee's got any questions to ask of you. Committee, do you have any questions? Arthur, Councillor McCutcheon, Arthur, you have a question?
Am I on? Yeah.
Yes, Arthur, yeah, loud and clear.
Mr. Collins mentioned, I'm making a note here and I'm not sure I've got it right, a 4 meter height onto Broadway. Could you indicate perhaps Rita could do that with the diagram, site diagrams, as to where we're talking about there with a 4 meter height onto Broadway?
Rita, can you help? Hello?
Sorry, Chair. So this is the wall that I think that is Mr. Collins was talking about. So that will be reduced because that extension will be 3 meters in this position.
Okay. Arthur, it's back to you. It's a question. Okay.
Thank you, yes. I've got that line, yes. And it's a proposed single-story flat roof extension at that point.
Mr. Collins, yeah.
It's a single-story extension. If Rita's got the proposal drawing, I think it should have a comparison between the elevation that's onto Broadway, the existing elevation, and the proposed elevation. So at the moment, there's a 2.7 metre high wall that then extends up to the 4 metre high wall of the outbuilding, that then drops down to a 1.8 metre wall that encloses the garden. So the proposal is to sort of unify that with a 3.2 metre high wall that would contain the extension, the kitchen extension, and then the wall continues at 1.8 metres. So if you've got the drawing, Rita, I think that would perhaps explain it a little bit better.
You can see the photo. Yeah, it's coming in. So not that one, not that one. So this is the elevation.
Yeah,
So
so
this
it's the
is-
elevation on the right, on the left hand side of the drawing is the existing situation. Then below that is the proposal. So at the moment, the wall from the back wall of the house extends to 2.7 metres, then goes up to 4 metres and back down again. The proposal would be to unify that with a 3.2 metre high wall. So on the left hand side of the drawing, that's it there, yeah. And the existing situation is above it.
Arthur, that
Thank you,
you
yes.
raised the point. You okay
Thank
with
you,
that?
Chairman. That's cleared up my mind. Thank you.
Okay. Are there anyone else who's got any questions to ask of Mr. Collins, please? I can't see any on my screen, Maisie. Can you?
No one's indicating, Chair.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Collins. Thank you very much. Rita, on what's been said by the speakers before I open it for the committee to ask you any questions, have you got anything you want to come back on, please?
Thank you, Chair. It's only a couple of points. Mrs. Butler mentioned about an application that was withdrawn. That was back in 2011. In fact, an application was submitted for a detached garage, similar position as the current proposal, but it's for a much higher garage, which has got an office above the structure. So it had got much higher pitch. Now that application was withdrawn by the applicant. Our record will not say why it was withdrawn, simply the fact that it was withdrawn, but because it was withdrawn, so it's not really material to the consideration of this application. I have already mentioned about why we didn't think the BRE light assessment is reasonably asked for. In terms of the photos superimposed with the structure that was submitted by Mrs. Butler, I think the team leader, Mrs. Scaife, did explain to her that because that we can't verify the superimposed image on the photo, the accuracy of that. So we cannot therefore can use it as a material information to inform this application. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Rita. Committee, it's now questions to Rita. Has anyone got any questions to ask of Rita? Councillor Botwood, Alan, yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Rita, just a couple of little points, particularly on the garage. Bearing in mind that it completely covers the side of, say, 81A, and I think the eaves height was about 0.6 higher than the existing wall. And then obviously number 49 has got the whole of the ridge to contend with, plus a little bit more. Are these walls right on the boundary, or is there a separation? Because I'm a little bit concerned how number 47, if it's approved, they'd ever maintain those two elevations.
Through you, Chair. Through you, Chair. In terms of the boundary with number 49, the existing boundary wall will be in situ. So the wall and the buttress to the wall will stay there. So then the garage wall will be next to that. So it's right up to that. So obviously, in terms of maintenance on this side, it can't be done because it's on this side anyway. But it wouldn't affect number 49 to do maintenance on their side, obviously. In terms of 81A Broadway, it is a similar situation whereby currently there is a boundary wall there, and then the garage wall will be built, right next to that. But because although it is slightly higher, but the roof will be sloping away from number 81A. It will go up to 3.8 meters to the eaves, to the ridge height, sorry. So, but officer consider that on balance, we do not feel that it is that objectionable. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, I can see Councillor McCutcheon, Arthur, and you, Brian, Councillor Markham, but Arthur, okay.
Thank you, Chairman. The height, have we got any history of the height, not the height, of the application for the two-storey extension which has been built onto the back of 47? I'm not quite sure when that was built. It could have been almost, it's pedalled out in exactly the same way as the other areas. but I'd like to know just when that was erected, because it's undoubtedly the largest building or the most dominant building when you look at the site.
Rita?
Thank you.
Are you with me, Rita?
Would you like me to put on the plan for you?
Yes, please.
Yep. Yeah, okay. You'll be bear with me a couple of seconds. So we'll go to the garage one. Do you just bear with me? So, yeah, this is the garage. So Councillor McCutcheon was talking about this garage here.
Partly that.
Arthur, you want to?
Oh, sorry. And the two-story extension that I was looking at was the one that's actually on the back of number 47. Because,
yeah, that is a historic extension. It's been there some time.
Yes, that's the very one there that you've got that. Now, when you do, I mean, I've not been onto the site, but I have, of course, been around it and looked at it very carefully over 20 minutes or so. And there is no doubt about it that certainly from the alleyway, that is the dominant building at this end. And yes, it doesn't look anything like so dominant on this extension here, on this view here, but from the alleyway, it's even more than you've got there. And I'm trying to make an assessment of what is the amount of building that's being put onto that space and the additions that are going on to the back end. So thank you. That's made that quite a lot clearer.
Yeah, through you, Chair, just one thing to add. You look at the history, obviously, this has been built quite some time ago, probably well before 2007. So we only put in the recent history on page 36, paragraph 4. So it is quite some time ago when this flat roof extension been erected, I believe. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Rita. Councillor Markham. Brian, you had your hand up, I believe.
Yes, I did, Chair, but I was going to ask about Mrs. Butler mentioned other objections, and I couldn't find them, but I did find them in the report. It says 6 third-party objections, so I have no questions for Rita.
Thank you very much. Anyone else got any questions to ask of Rita, please? I can't see any on my screen. Maisie, can you see any on yours?
The Chair, and Councillor Russell has left the meeting. Councillor
Russell has left the meeting. Did you say?
Waiting room. She's coming back. Yes, Chair. She's just been readmitted.
Okay, well, okay, she left the meeting, but is there any other questions? Okay, then the thing is now for comments, please. Committee, any comments? Councillor McCutcheon, Arthur.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd say that overall what we've got here is something which I don't often complain about, which is overdevelopment. As you know, Chairman, I'm one for developing heavily within our boundary boroughs, borough boundaries rather, and leaving the space outside beyond the green belt. But in this particular case, I think we've got a very higgledy-piggledy development here, which is not going to produce anything very nice at all. And that two-story extension makes it clear as to how that can be really bad. It is quite a ghastly extension, frankly. And you know, if one's talking of things which are out of keeping with the rest of the street scene, that is already very much out of keeping with the street scene. And it's going to provide a lot more building space on this particularly tight site. So I would say that unusually for me, I'm of a mind at the present time to vote against the officer's recommendation on this.
Thank you. Anyone else got any comments, please? Councillor Malcolm, Brian? I can't hear you, Brian.
I'm muting myself. Right. First of all, 3 elements: a rear extension, one which has got a lantern, is it called, on the top of it, which seems to be replacing a not too better than what it's going to replace. And yeah, I think that will be better for the house. And anyway, that would be permitted development. The side extent, that's the rear, as the side onto Broadway doesn't seem to really have any impact at all. And in fact, if it wasn't for the fact that it's onto the main highway there, it would be permitted development. And I think, if anything, it will improve the outlook on Broadway. The garage, the comments on the impact on the street scene and that is behind gates onto the back garden, and there is the only impact, and I accepted it, there is an impact, a definite impact, which is on the neighbours, on Mr. and Mrs. Butler, and that's there, but it is, I believe, 17 metres away. I would rather see a flat roof garage built there, but my question would be, on what planning grounds could we refuse it? There's no overlooking. It's a long way from Mr. and Mrs. Butler, really, and it's not going to affect their light in their living room, for instance. I don't like it particularly, but I can't really see a reason for turning any of this down. So okay. That's my comment.
Thank you, Brian. Councillor Birch, Jane.
Thank you, Chair. I think if we're looking for designs which are consistent and in keeping, we've got 2 flat roof extensions and 1 pitch roof extension, where the existing extension is a flat roof. Just from the point of consistency, I would think that there is a little way to go with the sort of designing of all this, and at least producing some kind of regularity with these extensions. I mean, that's my comment.
Thank you. Anyone?
Councillor Carley's left the meeting.
Sorry, Maisie, what was that?
Carley's left the meeting.
Yeah, I saw that flash up. Anyone else got any comments, please? I don't see any. Maisie, no more? Maisie, no more with hands up, comments?
No one's indicating, Chair.
Thank you. Well, thank you for all that, committee. The recommendation by the officers is for approval. We've debated this, or you've debated this. We've heard the speakers in detail and debated it. The officer's recommendation is for approval. Do I have a proposer that we accept the officer's recommendation on this, please? Councillor Lane, Jamie, thank you. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Botwood, seconding. Right, all those in favour that we accept the officer's recommendation, please, for approval?
Five hands in the air, Chair.
Sorry, Maisie, can you see that again?
That's 5 hands.
5-4, yeah. Those against?
1, Chair. 1.
And any abstentions, please? Councillor Birch.
1, Chair.
1 minute. 1. So 5-4, 1 against and 1 abstention. Is that right?
Right, Chair. That's right, Chair.
So that on a majority decision is approved. Thank you very much. Thank you. Right, committee, we now come on to item.
Chair, Chair, before we move on, might just be mine, but Maisie's voice is very crackly. I wonder if we could do anything about it.
I can't do it at this end. Maisie,
well,
yeah, I've noticed that you have kind of breaking up. Is there any problems? Have you got any gremlins on your end?
I don't think so, but I'll try to be clearer, Chair. Apologies.
It's still a bit, still a bit gravelly, but still, we'll see what we can do. We'll try and get on. It's your fair point, Brian. I've noticed it myself, but we'll have to get on as best we can. Okay, right. We come out to item 10A, committee. 10A is the former car showroom and premises at 399 Halston Road. And it's the creation of a new access to serve 379 to 399 Halston Road with associated highway works to Halston Road. Adam, this is your report. Would you like to present it, please? Can't hear you, Adam. Can I just hold on a second before we go there? Maisie, what are you saying about Councillor Kelly and Councillor Russell?
I'm unmuted. Councillor Carley has left the meeting, but Councillor Russell left, but she's back in the meeting now. And Councillor King has been readmitted.
Of course. So we've now got 9 councillors at the meeting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Chair, Councillor Lane is indicating.
Yeah, I voted and then my computer went kaput, so I was kicked out of the meeting. So I don't know what the decision was at that last item.
That last item, Jamie, was 5 for the recommendation, 1 against and 1 abstention. So it was passed on a majority decision. Jamie, you get that?
Yeah, that's fine, thank you.
Okay, right. So we have now 9 councillors present. Is that right, Maisie? Before we go on, because I want to know when it comes to voting.
Yes, Chair, we have 9 councillors.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. Adam, sorry about that. Would you like to present this report, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. The application seeks planning permissions for alterations to the access for the site of a former car showroom and premises and associated highway works to the Harleston Road. The first 2 photographs are from Google Street View, and they show the site when it was operated by SJM Motors for used car sales, and before that it was a Ford and Citroen garage with a Shell petrol station. Let's jump back, sorry. It currently has 2 accesses in a horseshoe arrangement, which is typical for a petrol station. The third slide shows the existing situation on site, and you can see that the showroom building that was here has been demolished and is currently being used for a hand car wash operating on the forecourt, with some used car sales to the east of the site and a repair of refrigeration vehicles in a workshop to the rear. There are 2 proposed site plans in the presentation, and the works the subject to the application are outlined in red on this plan. In summary, the works comprise the closure of the eastern access, the reconfiguration of the western access to form a 9-metre wide access road with a pedestrian island here, zebra crossing and a footway and cycleway to both sides that connects into the existing network. There's also a new ghost right turn island on the Harleston Road, which you can just see here, and the next slide is a bit more detailed. There has been some confusion among neighbours because the supporting transport assessment sought to model the suitability of the access for potential future uses of the land in blue. So all this land, which is also in the applicant's ownership, and this included potentially a new primary school and retail food store. However, the application is not seeking permission for such uses and only relates to the access proposals and highway works that are outlined in red on this plan. This is the more detailed plan, and again you can see the right-hand turn lane on the Harleston Road, and you can see the new access road, and I can confirm that County Highways raised no objections. So to conclude, Chair, there are no updates and the officer recommendation is to approve subject to conditions. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. Well, we have one speaker on this. Mr. Nick Harrison, please. Mr. Harrison, are you with us?
Sorry, yes, Chair, I am. Thank you.
Thank you. If you just, for the record, introduce yourself and in what capacity you speak, please.
Yeah, my name is Nick Harrison. I'm the head of planning at Lambert Smith Hampton. I am speaking on behalf of the applicant.
Thank you. You have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. In the agreement to sell the rear part of the site to the Department for Education for a new two-form entry primary school, the applicants are obliged to first provide an improved access onto Harleston Road. The approval of this application will enable that access to be delivered. A separate planning application will then be submitted for the new primary school, which will be determined on its own merits. The future use of the remainder of the site is yet to be decided, but will also be the subject of a separate planning application to be submitted in due course. Again, this will be determined on its own merits. Each of these future planning applications will be supported by their own transport assessments and subject to further detailed consideration by the Highway Authority. Nevertheless, in order to provide a robust assessment of the new access proposed in this application, it has been necessary to assume a use on the balance of the site. The submitted transport assessment has therefore been prepared on the basis that, in addition to the primary school, the proposed access will also serve a new food store. However, I want to reassure you that in determining this application, no approval is granted or inferred for either the primary school or any other proposed use on the site, including a food store. The only approval that is being sought is for the new access, and this is confirmed in your officer's report. The proposals have been thoroughly assessed by the Highway Authority, and they have no objection to the new access, which will introduce a new right turn lane on Harleston Road and have been designed to accommodate vehicles up to a 16.5 metre maximum length articulated HGV. Furthermore, I would point out that the proposals have been subject to a fully independent road safety audit and will deliver significant improvements in local pedestrian accessibility, including a central pedestrian refuge island for persons crossing the new access at Harleston Road Junction, 3 metre wide shared footway cycleways along the full extent of the site frontage, connecting into the existing footways on Harleston Road to the east and west of the site, and a zebra crossing on the internal access road to take pedestrian activity away from the possible food store entrance. The development will also facilitate the closure of the existing eastern vehicular access by upgrading the existing western access to provide a single point of access. Finally, I wish to draw members' attention to the conclusion in your officer's report. This clearly states that the proposed access alteration and associated highway works would not have an adverse impact upon the highway system, the character and appearance of the surrounding area, or neighbour amenity. Accordingly, the proposal is compliant with the requirements of national and local planning policies. I therefore respectfully ask that the committee approve this application.
Thank you, Mr. Collins. Thank you. 3 minutes was up, but thank you for that. You've got most of it in. If you just remain with us in case any of the committee's got any questions, please. Committee, do you have any questions to ask of Mr. Collins? Anyone?
No one is indicating, Chair.
Thank you, Maisie. Thank you, Mr. Collins. Thank you very much. Right. Committee, any questions to ask of Adam, please? Councillor McCutcheon, Arthur.
Thank you, Chairman. Could you indicate to us, Adam, just why closing that eastern access is an improvement for the access on the site?
Adam?
The more detail of it is in the transport assessment, but essentially highways always try and minimise the number of accesses. They work on the less accesses make development safer. So it's on that basis. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Markham, Brian? No? I can't hear you, Brian.
Sorry, I will make my comments later. Yeah, if I need to.
Yeah, it's questions to Adam at the minute. Yeah, okay. Anyone else got any questions to ask about Adam, please?
No one is indicating, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Right, we are coming on to comments now. Sabine, as you mentioned it, Councillor Markham, Brian, do you want to make any comment? I'll see you, Alan. Yeah, I'll come in a minute. Yeah. Can't hear you, Brian. Can't hear you.
Okay, sorry, Chair. To my mind, actually, this will improve, particularly for pedestrians and cyclists along that stretch of road compared to the previous garage access. You know, and so that's to be welcome without commenting on what future use of the land. But I think it's to be welcomed on road safety terms and on mobility terms for pedestrians, and because you're not crossing as a pedestrian, you're not crossing the garage forecourt.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Botwood, Alan, yeah.
Thank you.
Alan, you've gone back on mute again. Alan, you've gone back on mute.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Having used this site a lot when I was working at Travis Perkins, for petrol, servicing and everything else, up and down that road, the two accesses were a nightmare because nobody had right of way. Pedestrians were trying to walk across the accesses. So I personally see this as a big improvement. And that's really my comment.
Thank you. So I think I picked up that Councillor Russell. Catherine, you have a comment?
Thank you, Chair. I was just trying to envisage a huge HGV pulling out of that access and wanting to turn right in the face of 2 lanes of traffic. And as Councillor McCutcheon said, I just wonder why it should be considered safer. I've heard the argument about the reduced number of access, which would be safer, and I agree with that. But I wouldn't like to have to pull out on that road, which is a very long, straight, busy road in a big vehicle. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Councillor Lane, Jamie, I believe you had a comment?
Yes, of course. When this was a car showroom, huge lorries have been putting out the cars on anyway. I don't know how often they get a delivery of cars. So I was going to say I suppose we accept the officer's recommendation, but I know that the council want to speak, so I'll let them have a say.
Okay, I don't know whether there is any more councillors want to. Thank you, Jamie. Thank you. Any other councillors want to
Councillor
speak?
King's indicated.
Sorry, Maisie, who?
Councillor King.
Oh, sorry, Councillor King. Anna, yeah.
Been waving at you, Chair.
Well, yeah, but I've got a limited screen, so Maisie has to pick up on that.
Okay, so I've looked at the objections as well on here, but I would like to echo what Councillor McCutcheon just said about the cycle footways, which are going to be greatly improved. As we're all looking around the active to work agenda at the moment, I think this could significantly help in the interim to try and help us achieve something better for the future. As Councillor Lane also points out, the access has always been there. It's been an extremely busy road, and I do hope that this will actually impact and make it safer.
Thank you, Councillor King. Thank you very much. If there's no one else got any more comments, Maisie, I can't see any on mine. Can you see any on yours?
Oh, no, Councillor Lane, I think.
Right, Councillor Lane, Jamie, yeah.
I was just going to propose we accept the officer's recommendation, Chair.
Thank you very much. Do we have a seconder? Yeah, we've got Councillor Markham. I saw him put his hand up first. Councillor Markham, Brian. Right, all those in favour that we accept the officer's recommendation for approval? Should have 8.
8.
Thank you. With the yeah, so that's actually approved unanimously with the councillors that's around. Okay, that's fine. Thank you, committee. Thank you for that. Sounds like Avon calling. Right, we now come on to item 10C on page 41, committee. It's item 10C, which is 10 Melville Street, which is a change of use from a dwelling house to a house of multiple occupation for 4 occupants with alterations to front and side elevations. Rita, this is your report. Would you like to present it, please?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. If you bear with me a couple of minutes.
Has Councillor Mary Markham come back?
Yes, Councillor Mary Markham was back in the meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. This is an application for change of use from a dwelling house to a house in multiple occupation for 4 occupants. This is, you can see, this is the application site here, Melville Street. Here, this is the end of terrace property. Currently, it's a 3-bedroom terrace house. Just the area photograph, you can see the surrounding area and the on-street parking situation. Just a street view. This is the corner property, the application site. Just show you the plans. The existing plan show you there are 3 bedrooms on the first floor. On the ground floor, there's the lounge, 2 lounges, and kitchen and dining room on the ground floor. As for the proposed plan, you can see there's a bedroom, first bedroom with an ensuite, a lounge, kitchen and diner, and a bathroom at the back. Upstairs, there are 3 further bedrooms. So altogether, bedroom 1, 3, and 4 would have ensuite facilities. And bedroom 2, this one will use the bathroom on the ground floor. In terms of, I just want to show you, this is just an elevation of the property. This is the side gate fronting onto Melville Street. Just to show you, the property does in need of upgrading somewhat. Okay, go back to the plan. In terms of concentration, including this property, that the result will be 2% within a 50 meters radius. No parking is provided within for this proposal, although the County Highways did ask for a parking beat survey for this proposal, but due to the COVID-19 situation, the applicants are unable to carry out a survey at this time. However, the site is within quite close distance with Wellingborough Road to the south here, and it's close to public transport route and within a sustainable location. Although there will be an increase of the demand of 2 further parking spaces as compared with the existing use as a 3-bedroom dwelling, due to the sustainable location, a refusal of permission on parking ground will be difficult to sustain. Private sector housing has no objection to the application and consider the facility sufficient to cater for 4-person HIMO. So for that, Chair, the recommendation is for approval. Thank you.
Rita, many thanks. Committee, we have no speakers on this application, so it's any questions is directly to Rita. Any questions, committee, to Rita? Councillor McCutcheon, Arthur.
Thank you, Chairman. What I wanted to know is, what is the access from that bedroom number 2 to the toilet and bathroom facilities on the ground floor? From what I can see, it's down the stairs, through the lounge, and then through the dining room to there.
Rita?
Thank you, Chair. I'll just show you the plan again. Yes, for bedroom 2, I'll just put a laser pen on. So bedroom 2 here, yes, you will have to go downstairs through the dining room to the bathroom at the back.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Arthur. Anyone else got any questions to Rita, please, committee? Councillor Birch, Jane, sorry, thank you. Jane, yep.
Thank you, Chair. Rita, is the access, the side access, still going to be used for bikes in and out of the back and the rubbish being put out? I noticed on the original drawings that there was a gate.
Yeah.
Yes,
Chair, yes.
Yeah.
They can use the front as well as the side. The side has got a side gate, so obviously with a gate, we can see there's a padlock on it, so it is secure. So, so the bins could go out the side as well. Yeah, so that will be quite good. Don't have to go through the front, you see.
Okay. Anyone else got any? Councillor Russell, Catherine, yeah.
Thank you, Chair. I see on item 8.3, it states clearly that the property is considered for sufficient size, and a condition restricting the use of the property to a maximum of 4 people would ensure overdevelopment does not occur. And I would like to know that that is definitely going to take place, because this is a very little house.
I think it's conditioned, I think, isn't it, Rita?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, there's a condition number 3, restricting the number of residents to 4 only. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else got any questions to ask of Rita? No? Okay, right, we come on to comments then, committee. Any comments, please? Councillor Birch, Jane, yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Just for consistency on my part, I don't think it's appropriate for people who are unrelated to have to walk through a dining room that maybe visitors there, to go to the bathroom, to have a shower, to whatever. I think the bathroom should be accessible to all the bedrooms without having to go through these public spaces. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor McCutcheon, Arthur? Arthur, yeah.
Yeah, I'm willing. Thank you, Chairman. I would agree with Councillor Birch on this matter. That is a minus point for this particular application. It's got a plus point as well, and which is that there is a very good parking space, unusually for a town centre site like this, just opposite, which is actually underused, curiously enough. But whether that be trade-off, I don't know whether the advantages of usable parking would trade off satisfactorily against the poor access to the lavatory and toilet from upstairs. Thank you.
But equally, I would say it's got 3 plus points because it's got 3 ensuite bedrooms as well. Anyone else?
Councillor King is indicating.
Yeah, thank you, Maisie. I can see Councillor King, Anna. Yeah.
You've just picked up my point, Chair. So 2.2 does lay out that the dwelling will have 1 bedroom at ground floor with an ensuite and a lounge, kitchen, dining and bathroom, and 3 bedrooms above, 2 of which all have ensuites as well. So there's only 1 bedroom that has to rely on a shared facility.
That's right.
If I'm reading that correctly.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Thank you for that. Any other councillors got any questions or comments? Are we on? Comments?
No one is indicating, Chair.
So there's no comments, no further comments. The officer's recommendation committee is for approval. Do I have a proposal that we accept the officer's recommendation? Councillor Botwood, Allen, I can see that. A seconder, please. Councillor Lane, deputy. Yeah, thank you very much. Seconding. All those in favour to accept the officer's recommendation?
Seven, Chair.
Thank you. And against? Abstention?
2.
Thank you very much. That makes the total of 9. So that's right. So there's 7 for and 2 abstentions. So on that basis, it's passed on a majority vote. Thank you very much, committee. Thank you. So we now come on to item 10E, which is on page 57, committee. And 10E is Anna's report. Anna, which is for 9 Farm Close, the demolition of existing outbuilding and single-storey flat roof rear extension, and erection of new 2-storey side and single-storey rear extension. As I say, Hannah, this is your report. Would you present it, please?
Thank you, Chair. The application site is located at the end of a cul-de-sac on a corner. So you can see it located in red here. Just show you the aerial view. You can see it has quite a large rear garden. The application site is the left-hand property here. Just to show you the angle from the road, so you can see that it is located in the corner here. This garage is part of the site and it would be demolished as part of the proposal, and the extension that's proposed would be in this location. The report mentions a neighbour's porch, and just for clarity, this is the porch that's mentioned. The next door neighbour to the left has this window. There's no windows at first floor, and these windows don't appear to serve a habitable room. This is the rear elevation. So we're in the application site looking towards the neighbouring property that's attached to. You can see that there's an existing single-storey rear extension on this property. And then just looking straight at the application site, this existing single-storey extension would be demolished as part of the proposal. And again, you can see the neighbouring property that has that porch I showed you. So you can see there's no windows at first floor. So the proposal, so sorry for the amount of information on this plan. The top half is the existing, so you can see the garage that I made reference to and the single-storey dining room. They're to be demolished. And if we move down to this plan at the bottom, you can see it's proposed to erect a 2-storey extension, which would be the smaller section. So on the bottom left plan, you can see the size of the 2-storey, the first floor. And then a single-storey extension, which goes along the back of the existing and proposed building. You can see it's the same depth, similar depth as next door neighbours. The proposal is considered to fit in well with the existing building, and due to the angle of the property on that corner, you wouldn't be able to see the whole of the front elevation clearly, because you'd be looking at it from an angle. So it's considered that this extension would not appear as large as it does in plan form, and also due to its setback, it is considered that it would look subservient and fit in well with the character and appearance of the street scene. It's therefore recommended for approval. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Hannah. Committee, we've got no speakers on this, so it's straight questions to Anna. If anybody's got any, please. Anybody got any questions to ask of Anna?
No one has indicated.
Thank you, Maisie. So comments then, committee, any comments? Councillor Lane, Jamie, yeah.
Yeah, I would say we just accept the office recommendation. I'd like to propose to accept the office recommendation.
Okay, do we have a seconder for that? Councillor King, Anna is seconding that. So committee, are we all in favour to accept the officer's recommendation for approval on this? We should have 9.
9 hands, Chair.
That's right. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, committee, for that. Right, committee, that concludes all the item 10 applications. Now we know, as I said before, we now revert back to item 9A, which is on page 11. So sorry to mess you about, but that's what we're doing tonight. And page 11 is for a thoroughfare at Jay's Jetty, Draperies and College Street entrances. planning and listed consent applications for the installation of gates at the entrance and exit of Jay's Jetty. Now, Councillor King is not speaking on this, but she said that she would leave the room because of her cabinet position. Is she gone into the waiting room, Maisie?
Yes, Councillor King has left that I.
Thank you very much. Rita, this is your report. Would you like to present it, please?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you. First of all, it's important to remind members that we are determining two applications here. It involves a planning application as well as a listed building consent application. So you have to make two decisions on this. I'm sure members are very familiar with the site. This is Jay's Jetty. You can see this is the Drapery and College Street to the west. And this is All Saints Church in Deposition. So the proposal involving gating these jetties, I can see one end is Drapery from here and also College Street. This application submitted following a proposal agreed by the Council's Cabinet in October 2019 due to the criminal activities and antisocial behaviour which took place in the jetty and taking place as well at the times, you know. In consultation with the police, and consider that it is a good idea to gate this alleyway. The site is within All Saints Conservation Area, and the building to the north is a listed building. As a gate, as you can see from the Drapery end, will be attached to the building, hence listed building consent is required for that. As for the gate from the Drapery end will be open inwards. It will have a height of 2.3 meters and a 0.8 meters wide opening deposition. As for the college end, and that will be a pushed out gate with a crossbar for emergency access. So with the height will be 3.05 meters there in height and 2.25 altogether in width, but with the gate is 1.2 meters. Just going to show you the elevation. So you can see this is the Drapery end. You have a thinner gate because of the thinner opening on that side. And for the College Street end, you will have a wider gate with 1.2 opening in there. Just show you the photographs. So this is JZ Jetty in this there. The listed building is currently vacant at the moment. Previously was a sports shop. This is a front view from Drapery. As you can see, the alleyway is quite a long alleyway in that position. So further in the alleyway, you can see a wider opening at the back. So this is a bit wider. So this is from the College Street end view. At the end of that, currently there's this cast iron gate in position and also a bin there that will be removed. So just another view of College Street. Just another one. So this application is supported by Northamptonshire Police and also the Conservation Officer has no objection to the proposal. There will be harm to heritage assets in terms of the conservation area and the listed building. However, it's considered the harm is less than substantial. And the harm will be outweighed by the public benefit of improving public safety in this alleyway. So, Chair, the recommendation is for approval. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rita. Thank you. Committee, there's no speakers on this. So it's any questions, straight questions to Rita straight away. Councillor Markham, Brian, yeah.
Right. A couple of questions for Rita, if I could. Because looking at the report, the one issue is the Euro bins in College Street End, and it's indicating that it's a question of chicken and egg, which comes first. They says the need to find a location for those Euro bins, but what we don't want, of course, is the gates to be done without finding somewhere for those bins, because yes, you're clearing up the jetty, but then you created a mess possibly in College Street. And second question was, the town centre conservation group was saying something about, they were suggesting that the arrows on the gates at the College Street end be repeated at the other end. I just wonder, actually, seeing those in the photos that you sent there, could perhaps Rita point out what they are on about, and are they in fact significant at all?
Rita, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Just want to show you the plan. So it will show you the design of the gate. So you can see, so from the College Street end, because you have got header there, so they are vertical bars, which is similar to the College Street end. You can see there the arrows head gates in that position.
So those ends, yeah. Right, okay.
Okay, thank you. Right. Anyone else, committee, got any questions to ask of Rita? Councillor Botwood, Alan, yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Just picking up on that point, the plans don't show that the top of the gates are the same. On the single gate on the Drapery end, it shows a bar going across the top. I don't know whether it looks like fleur-de-lis or something like that on the top of the College Street uprights, but not on the Drapery end.
Rita?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So I need to bring it back up again. So if you bear with me. So can you see? Yes, I think because for the Drapery end, you have this header. So that's why they chose to have that. You know, probably the structure of this, I think it's very different from the wider gate, because it's wider, you probably need more, well, like this one, you have a panel then for the push bar, but for this one, I think you member decided that you would like to see the arrowhead, then perhaps, you know, we can condition that. But because it is quite a small opening, it does sit quite neatly underneath this header. So that's why officer feel that, you know, notwithstanding that, this is still acceptable design.
Chair, may I make a comment? Yeah, thank you. When you're putting a modern feature on a listed building, you either try and match it up, and you're never going to match it up because there's no railing feature on here to match up with, or you make it as simple as possible. And I think that's the design thinking behind the Drapery entrance elevation. On the College Street elevation, also because there's nothing to stop people going over the top, that's why the arrowhead design is there, is to make it more difficult to climb over it. So it's a bit of design, and it's also a bit of functionality as well.
Thank you, Peter.
Chair.
Brian, yeah.
I accept what Rita said about the header on the entrance at the Drapery end. I think it's probably more important than that header, almost like it's a header, well, not a fan light, obviously, over the entrance is probably more important than the design of the gates you know, if that's kept there when the building's done up, it'd be nice.
Well, thank you. Is there anyone else got any comments to make? Sorry, questions to Rita, sorry. Anyone else?
Councillor Russell.
Councillor Russell, Catherine, yeah.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to know who's going to be responsible for maintaining the security of those gates. In other words, who's holding the keys for them? And I'm assuming they're going to be locked. And also, if are the bins going to be moved? Because if a fire starts in there and the gates are locked, how is access going to be made?
Rita?
Yep, through you, Chair. Yes, we are aware of that point. That's why a condition 3, as you can see on page 16 of your agenda, we have requested that a waste management strategy to be submitted. I think because we've been talking to the applicant about this, and they are still negotiating or liaising more like with the business around it, and they will come up with an agreement on how to organize the bins to be put out and how it's going to be operated. So we're quite confident that that can be done, and so the gate will not be put up until we have a satisfactory waste management strategy to be submitted and agreed.
Thank you, Rita, thank you. Has there anyone else got any questions to ask of Rita? I don't see any.
No one is
No.
indicating, Chair.
Thank you, Maisie. Right, we come on to comments committee. It's comments now. Are there any comments on the report? I don't see any. Councillor Lane, Jamie, yeah.
Just Chair, that we accept the office recommendation. I think this is a long time coming. Jay's Jetty has been a poor state for many, many years. And I know Councillor Anderson will be very pleased because I think he stood up at council quite a few times to mention Jay's Fluid and Jay's Jetty, how it needed some cleaning down there. So I think him for sure will be very pleased with this.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. Anyone else? So Councillor Lane is proposing to accept the officer's report. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Birch, Jane, you seconding? Yeah. Okay, all those in favour?
Chair, can I remind you need to vote?
Yes, we need to vote on 2. We're voting, that's quite right. We're voting on 2020-0035. That's the application for the gates in this case. So we've got to vote on 2 things on this. So this is for the first item on 0035. That's for the planning application for the gates. Yeah. Okay. Right, Arthur, are you, Arthur? You're not voting for this? You are, yeah. Maisie?
8 hands, Chair.
8 hands. Anybody against or abstaining?
There are none, Chair.
So that's approved. That part's approved unanimous. Now we come on to what Peter was saying. It's for the approval of the listed building consent application. Are we in favour of that? A proposer for that? Councillor Markham, Brian, yeah. Councillor Botwood seconding. Are we all in favour? This is for the second application, which is 0075, the listed building consent application. Yeah.
8 hands, Chair.
8 hands, so that's approved as well. So thank you for that, committee. Thank you. So we now come on to item 9B, page 19. The location is the Guildhall, St Giles Square, which is the listed building consent application to put up 2 benefactors and philanthropist boards in the north-south corridor. You've all got it on your report, so you can see it. And on this one, Adam, this is your report. Would you present it, please?
Thank you, Chair. The application relates to the historic part of the Grade 2-star listed Guildhall. The proposal seeks listed building consent to install 2 boards, benefactor boards, in the north-south corridor outside the Great Hall, to add a magnetic door lock, intercom and card reader to the south entrance door, and to put a CCTV camera to cover the south entrance external area. I've got a couple of photos to show where the boards will go, the south entrance door, which I'm sure members are familiar with, and where the card reader would go. To finish, there are no updates, and the officer recommendation is to approve subject to conditions. Thank you, Chair.
Well, thank you, Adam. Committee, there's no speakers on this. Any questions to Adam? No.
No one is indicating, Chair.
Maisie, thank you very much. Comments, committee, any comments? Councillor Birch, Jane.
Thanks, Chair. I think any barrier to the residents of the town entering the Guildhall, which is, you know, their building, is regrettable, and it's just another disincentive for people to get involved in civic life.
Thank you. Anyone else got any comments? Councillor Markham, Brian. So, Councillor Markham, Brian, yeah.
Yeah, yes, Chair. In some ways, I agree with Councillor, but I think it's very regrettable. But it's regrettable that we have to do it. So, I mean, I would like to see people walk in and out of those gate doors at the southern entrance and up those steps. But in this day and age, I think it's necessary, you know, but it's regrettable. I agree to a certain extent, but I think we'd be wrong not to do it for the safety of our staff and, in fact, visitors to the building.
Thank you. Anyone else got any comments?
Councillor Lane and Councillor Russ.
Councillor Lane, Jamie, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. It's only been a couple of years ago that the portrait of Jazz Baines was stolen from the Guildhall, and you know the Guildhall is full of treasures, and you know it is regrettable to put locks on there, but I think it's important to preserve our in this town. So I'd quite like to propose we accept the officer's recommendation.
Thank you, Jamie. Should Catherine, no, not Councillor Russell, not denying you your democratic right to have your comment?
Thank you, Chair. Just how will visitors access the Guildhall or that part of the building?
Adam?
My visitors will be directed through the one-stop shop, I believe, initially. Peter wants to come in.
Peter, yeah.
Chair, if I can just confirm this, it's a publicly owned building, but it's not a building that is accessible to the public, as I had to recently explain this to a member of the public. It is unfortunate. We have had some incidents of violence against members of staff, and so it's something that we unfortunately have to do. But we do offer tours of the building for anybody who wants them. We encourage members of the public to book them in advance. But if they do turn up on spec and officers are available, Shelley Parker is extremely knowledgeable about the building, then we will allow access as much as we possibly can. But unfortunately, these are works that are necessary at the moment and will have the minimum impact on the historic fabric of the building.
Catherine, Councillor Russell, yeah, you want to come back on that?
Thank you. So what steps is the council, maybe that's not the right word, what steps are going to be taken to ensure that visitors are not only aware of the fact that there is this increased security, but that there are tours and available and where and how they can book? I was stopped by somebody who had travelled all the way from Leicester to have a wander around the Guildhall. And in fact, I actually asked if I could help them, and they hadn't realised that certain areas, it was at a time when the Great Hall was being refurbished, they hadn't realised that certain areas were not available publicly. And I think the council needs to take greater steps to ensure that that information is easily available and accessible to visitors.
Adam or Peter, did you want to come back on that?
Yeah, Chair. We have updated the information available on the website, and there are details there of how to book tours. And we do have people coming a long way. And we've had examples recently where they've been able to successfully book the tours and actually been able to see a little bit more of the building than they would have done previously.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Anyone else got any comments? No?
No one has indicated.
Thank you, Maisie. Right. The officer's recommendation is for approval committee. Do I have a proposer that will accept the officer's recommendation? Councillor Russell's proposing that we accept it. And Councillor Malcolm is seconding, Brian Malcolm, that is, that we second that we accept the officer's recommendation. All those in favour that we accept the officer's recommendation for approval?
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 hands, Chair.
And there's no abstentions and nobody against, so that's approved. Thank you unanimously. Thank you very much. It's at this junction where I have to say good evening and thank you for your participation to Councillors Botwood and Councillor Markham, Councillor Mary Markham. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Hello.
Thank you very much. Right, we now come on to items 12A and 12B, and I must thank you, Mr. Bolton, for being so patient and sitting there waiting for this, but we shall get to you in a moment, just when I've got the reports done, because on 12A, which is on page 63, there's a creation of 2 new parking zones, one for 5 cars and one for 2 cars, and the parking area of Pikemead Court. Anna, this is your report. Would you present it, please?
Thank you, Chair. This is the application site. It's 2 areas of grass verges. Committee may remember a year ago, a bungalow was approved by committee in this location, and this parking is to provide some additional parking as a result of the loss of the garages. There's an aerial view. You can see the grassed areas where the parking is proposed, and then the garage part there. This is the first area where 2 parking spaces will be provided, continuing the existing parking that is available. And in this area, 5 parking spaces would be provided. And the land would be slightly regraded to be flat, but it wouldn't require a retaining wall or anything to be implemented. Here to show you the plan, so you'd see on that the bumpy land we just looked at, 5 spaces. On the previous one, 2 spaces continuing the existing row. And just to show you, you might notice there were some trees on the second photo I showed you. 3 trees are being removed and 1 being retained in the corner. But the tree officer has been consulted and raises no concerns with the loss of these trees due to their poor quality or inappropriateness for a residential area. Therefore recommended that the proposal be approved. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Anna. Well, Mr. Bolton, I don't know whether we've had the pleasure of your company, but what I do normally in these particular cases, and thank you for being so patient, as I said before, because there's nobody speaking against, I normally allow you to be there to answer any questions. You don't have to put any particular statements forward, but the committee can ask questions of either the officer, Anna, or you at the same time. You okay with that? So you don't have to present it in any way.
That's fine, Chair.
Okay, and thank you, as I say, thank you for being patient and waiting. So, sorry. Committee, we have any questions to Anna, if there's any, or Mr. Bolton, to Lewis, that is. So, are there any?
No one is indicating, Chair.
Thank you. This is very demanding, Lewis. I mean, I'm sure you're absolutely exhausted with this. Any comments then, committee?
No one is indicating, Chair.
Then I have to ask the committee that the officer's recommendation is for approval. Do I have a proposer that will accept the officer's recommendation?
recommendation.
Thank you, Jamie. Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Birch, Jane seconding. So all those in favour to accept the officer's recommendation?
Seven hands, Chair.
So that's unanimous. Now Councillor Botwood and Councillor Mary Markham have left us. Thank you. Thank you very much. Now we now come on to the last item on the agenda, which is item 12B on page 69, which is lock-up garages at Pikemead Court, variation of condition 2 of the planning permission of 2018/1770, which was a demolition of 6 garages and erection of 1 new build dwelling and parking to alter position of proposed development. Anna, again, this is your report. Would you, excuse me, be kind enough to present it, please?
Thank you, Chair. So this application site is actually the bungalow I just mentioned on the parking application that was just approved. Just first, there is an addendum. Just the condition 1 needs to be updated to include 1 additional plan reference, as the floor plans weren't originally in that condition. So it's just been updated to include plan PO4A. So yes, so we just looked at additional parking in this area, and we're now looking at what's proposed here. So on 5th of June 2019, a bungalow was approved in this location, and the garages have been demolished to commence that, but subsequently it's been found that there's a sewer line under it, and as such they need to slightly amend the position. So just to show you the area again, so this is the garage court. And so the site, so the properties to the left here are raised up higher, so the bungalow would be quite a lot lower than these dwellings here. Again, just to show you, so the parking area we looked at was the other side of this road. So this is what was approved a year ago. The dwelling was located as a bungalow. It was located and positioned slightly to the right of the plot with 3 parking spaces. What's proposed now is to shift the dwelling ever so slightly to the left-hand side of the plot. So it was in this over here, and it's now been moved slightly to the left. Still the same number of parking spaces, the same design and the same floor plan. So just to show you, it's still a bungalow with a hipped roof to ensure its minimal impact on neighbours. And it's still a 1-bedroom bungalow with access through to a wet room and the hall and kitchen and living room. As it is such a minor alteration, it's not considered that it would have an unacceptable impact on neighbouring properties. It is the same appearance and design as was previously approved, and it's considered that the relocation of it slightly further to the left would be acceptable. It's therefore recommended for approval. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Anna. We've got a committee, it's the same as 12A. Anna is in place to answer any questions, and so is Mr. Bolton, so is Lewis. Are there any questions to ask of either of them?
No one is indicating, Chair.
Thank you. Are there any comments, committee, please?
No one is indicating, Chair.
Right, so the officer's recommendation is for approval. Do I have a proposer, please? Do we accept the officer's recommendation? Councillor McCutcheon, Arthur, there, thank you. A seconder, Councillor Russell, Catherine, thank you. All those in favour that we accept the officer's recommendation?
7 hands, Chair.
Thank you. That's approved unanimously. Mr. Bolton, sorry about this. It won't always be as demanding and arduous as this. So,
that's fine, Chair.
So thank you for your patience, and thank you very much. So on that committee, that there is no exclusion of public address, no item 13. I thank you all for your participation, all your patience, and all your debates that you've taken. Thank you very much once again. Thank you. All take care, stay safe, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.